this is Gretchen from River Color Studio, and today we are talking about a few more stitches that you can use to embellish your finished projects. You can use this again on something that is very simple that you have knitted yourself, or you can purchase a finished project from a store and then personalize it using this type of embroidery. What we're going to be talking about next is the French knots, and that's these little dots that show up here along the outside of the flowers, I guess you would call them. French knots are relatively simple to do. There's just a couple of things to keep in mind. To start off, you're going to anchor the tail of the yarn on the inside of your project, however you would normally anchor yarn tails when you were finishing up a project. We're going to have, in this case, we have 2 strands of yarn held together. This is because we're doing a relatively chunky embroidery and we wanted to make certain that it would show up well for you online. If you were doing this at home, you could use 1 strand if you wanted something that was a little bit more dainty looking, or you could use 3 or more strands if you wanted something that was like super chunky and very definitely would show up really well. So we're going to come up wherever we want our French knot to show up. We're going to hold the yarn in our left hand, and we're going to use the darning needle, and we're going to wrap it around 1 time, and then we're going to put the darning needle back into the same hole that it came out of. And you're going to want to make sure that you're not poking through all the way to the back side of the sweater, because then you're sewing the front of the sweater to the back, and that would be a problem. As we're pulling the yarn through, the yarn is going to want to get pulled through to the back side, the knot part is, and so I'm going to use my left hand here. And I don't know if you can actually see it, but I'm going to be using my left hand here to keep the knot up on the surface. And this is really the only tricky part about doing the French knot, is if you pull too hard, the French knot can actually pop through and go to the back side of the fabric. If you find that you're having problems with that, there is a quick way that you can solve that problem, particularly since most of the embroidery that you're going to be doing is going to be kind of free form. In that case, what you're going to do is you're going to wrap it 1 time, just like we said before, and instead of going back through the same hole, just go 1 stitch up or 1 hole over and go through the next hole over instead. And what that does is it makes certain that the needle, that the knot itself is not going to pop through to the back nearly as easily. And so you're still going to want to sort of fluff it up a little bit with your fingers, and there you have a nice little knot. You can go crazy with these knots and use the knots to outline things. They make lovely eyes if you have, for example, an owl or a bird or something like that on your in your actual knitted design. You can use this to do the details for the features. You can also do a whole bunch of these real close together, and it will make almost like a solid line, and you can use that to make like a monogram for a finished project. If you have scrap yarn at home, you can use that to do this type of embroidery. Or the other thing that you can do is find a yarn that comes in smaller quantities, because obviously you're not going to need 100 yards or 400 yards in order to do this type of embroidery unless you have a really, really big project. The Madeline Tosh Unicorn Tails, which are Tosh Merino Light, a fingering weight yarn, come in much smaller quantities. These are 52 yards of yarn, and it's a much more economical way to get a bunch of different colors if you're going to be doing an embroidery project that uses several colors. So for example, this one uses 3 different colors of yarn in order to get the design done, and it could be quite expensive if you were going out to purchase full skeins of each of those colors, but when you're purchasing only 50 yards of each of them, it's a lot less of an investment. So hopefully you will be able at this point to go and do French knots as much as you would like and keep them nice and on the surface and make your finished projects beautiful. Thank you so much for joining us today, and check on our website for other videos including how to do the chain stitch and how to do the crocheted border along the edge of a finished project. Thanks so much. Have a great day.